On September 13th, 2017, life was going smoothly for the head of technology at a Russian bank. In fact, things couldn't have been better. But that night, at exactly 3 a.m., the bank's account manager got a phone call that instantly shook him up. Not because of what was said, but because of how it was said. The caller was none other than the head of technology himself, and his voice was trembling in a way the manager had never heard before. All he said was, "Call the IT team immediately. This is serious." Without asking a single question, the IT guy called Kaspersky's emergency response team and asked them to send a specialist to the bank right away. He told them anxiously, "I think the problem that's been freaking out the whole world has just hit Russia." And sure enough, just 15 minutes later, a cybersecurity expert from Kaspersky arrived and sat down with the bank's IT staff in the main server room. But what they discovered next was way worse than anything they could have imagined. Someone, an unknown hacker, had gained full control over the bank's main network controller, the domain controller. Now, for those who don't know what that means, here's the deal. This system basically acts like the brain of the entire bank's IT infrastructure. Whoever controls it controls everything. Every single computer in every branch and department. The Kaspersky expert and the IT manager sat in front of the main server, watching something disturbing happen in real time. The hacker was sending massive amounts of data straight to China. No explanation, no reason, just pouring data out of the system. Both of them were stunned. Even the Kaspersky guy, someone who had seen plenty of advanced attacks, looked completely rattled. This hack was on another level, so much so he didn't even look hopeful about stopping it. But still, he began searching the system for any signs of malware, hoping he could at least minimize the damage. And after hours of digging, completely by chance, he found it. A hidden program that gave the hacker full remote access to the bank's computers, and even the ability to spy on them in real time. That's when he said something quietly. "Is it possible? The hacker's watching us right now?" To test his theory, he did something bold. He opened the system's notepad and typed just one word in Russian. "Hello." Minutes went by. Nothing. The screen stayed the same. Then, out of nowhere, the mouse pointer moved by itself, and a message appeared on screen, also in Russian. "You won't catch us." That was it. Confirmation. The hacker was watching everything, and was playing games with them, right there in plain sight. The Kaspersky expert typed back, "We will catch you." The hacker replied almost instantly, "No, my friend, you won't." And just like that, a strange psychological war began between some of the world's most dangerous cyber criminals and a team of seasoned cybersecurity professionals. That single moment of challenge was just the spark. The beginning of one of the most dangerous and complicated cyber attacks in modern history. But the big question still hung in the air. Who's going to win this war? Will the hackers slip away unnoticed? Or will the investigators and security systems finally catch up? Today, we're diving into one of the biggest cyber heists this planet has ever seen. Now, usually, cyber thefts happen fast. A one-time hit where someone steals a huge amount of money, then vanishes without a trace. But this story, this one's different. Very different. This attack lasted 2 full years, and the thefts, they hit 30 different countries. The story is packed with twists, complex details, and mind-blowing connections. And get this, the operation was so top secret that every name and piece of information made public is fake. Why? because revealing the real details could trigger a global financial crisis. No exaggeration. So without dragging this out, let's get into it. The Carbonac operation. Who were these people? Carbonac wasn't just some group of wannabe hackers trying to steal credit card numbers or pull off cheap scams. They were digital masterminds, an organized criminal network run like a major corporation. Just imagine this. Each stage of their operation had its own dedicated team. One team for hacking, another for surveillance, and a third just for moving and stealing money. They even had people on the ground, whose job was to physically collect cash from ATMs. Their system was unbelievably sophisticated. They moved in silence, watching, gathering intel, and never making a move until their plan was 100% ready. And here's the crazy part. After stealing the money, they'd launder it through genius-level methods and erase every trace of the crime so well that even top-tier cybersecurity investigators couldn't track them down. But when did it all start? Back in 2014, nobody had ever heard the name Carbonac. They weren't on any security agency's radar. No signs, no warnings, no red flags. Their mission back then was simple: surveillance. They were silently watching and studying the internal systems of banks, one by one, tracking every platform, analyzing how accounts were structured, what software was used, and where the weak spots were. But they didn't attack. Not yet. They'd discover vulnerabilities and just leave them, saving the access points for later. In some cases, they even patched the vulnerabilities themselves, just to gain the system's trust. But they always kept a hidden back door, so they could sneak back in whenever they wanted. Their one and only focus was clear: build a massive database of global banking weaknesses. And their first major hit? It happened in Ukraine. While digging through one bank's systems, they found a security hole. And after months of silent observation, it was finally time to strike. That's when they exploited the weakness, in a way that was unbelievably smart and calculated. All that quietly gathered intel turned into a weapon, allowing them to break into the system from the inside. It all started on April 8, 2014. That day, a regular employee at a bank was just sitting at his desk, going about his routine work, totally unaware that he was about to become the door through which one of the most dangerous cyber attacks in history would be launched. The idea? Genius in its simplicity. The hackers sent what looked like a completely normal email, nothing suspicious, directly to this employee. The message was written in a formal tone, identical to how the bank's internal emails usually sounded. It even looked like it came from upper management. The employee opened it without a second thought. Inside, there was just a Word document. Looked totally harmless, but in reality, that file was booby-trapped. Yep. That simple-looking document contained malware, and the moment it was opened, the code exploited an old vulnerability in Microsoft Word, launching a virus straight into the employee's computer. And this wasn't just any virus. It created a backdoor, giving the hackers full remote access to the bank's internal system. From that moment on, they could see everything the employee was doing, in real time. They watched his screen, logged every keystroke, every password typed, every click made. The poor guy had no idea. His computer had become the hacker's eyes inside the bank, but he was never the real target. He was just the entry point, the way in. Through his machine, the hackers started jumping from one system to the next, one server at a time, until they had full control over the entire bank's network. Their first move after gaining access? surveillance. They started observing the bank's daily operations, tracking money movements, transfers, internal systems. They were watching everything, as if they were sitting inside the bank themselves. Every detail, every step. And they kept watching for nearly 2 years, until the moment came to strike. Their first real heist was pulled off in the most unbelievable way. The infiltration happened in Ukraine, but the actual theft, that went down in Taipei, the capital of Taiwan, on July 10th, 2016. 2 members of the Carbonac crew were sent out for the job. They wore simple face masks and fishing caps, nothing that would draw attention. They arrived at a bank in the middle of Taipei. One of them stood near the entrance, keeping watch. The other casually walked up to an ATM. He didn't swipe a card, didn't type a PIN, didn't even touch the machine much. He just stood there, waiting. Then, suddenly, the machine started spitting out cash non-stop. It was like something out of a movie. The guy didn't flinch, just started calmly stuffing the money into his bag like it was a normal everyday task. But then, a surprise. A stranger walked up, probably just wanting to withdraw some cash. One of the hackers whispered to his partner, "Run! Someone's coming." They left everything behind and slipped away quickly, just like they'd practiced. The stranger, totally shocked. He came to grab a bit of cash and found himself standing in the middle of a crime scene with bills scattered all around the ground. And honestly, what would you do in that situation? Let me know in the comments. As for him, he just walked away, didn't touch a single bill. Now the big question is, how much money was taken from that ATM? But more importantly, was that the end of it? Not even close. That exact same operation, same method, was executed in 20 different locations around the world, at the exact same time. 20 ATMs, all over the globe, suddenly started spitting out cash in sync. And this scene? It happened again and again, over a period of 2 whole years. So here's the real mystery. How did the hackers always manage to show up at the exact right moment to collect the cash? Were they psychic? Or was there a master plan behind it all? And what might blow your mind? Some bank managers at first thought it was just a coincidence. They actually believed that the people who grabbed the money were just lucky, like they found a broken ATM. But the truth was way more complicated. So now, let's take a step back. Let's break down this genius-level criminal network, piece by piece. Believe it or not, this entire operation was run by just one man. Yep, a single mastermind was leading this hellish system made up of more than 20 of the most skilled hackers on the planet. Each one of them was like a team leader, managing their own squad of elite programmers and cyber criminals. But here's the real kicker. Nobody knew who anyone else was. Not a single member knew the true identity of the boss. Every task was divided with military precision. Each hacker had a specific role, a code name, and clear instructions. They knew exactly what to do, when to do it, and when to stop, all without knowing what the other teams were working on. The genius of it all? Perfect organization. The boss had created a digital control panel, a dashboard, where he managed the whole operation. You'd log into your system and boom, your assigned tasks were right there. You complete them, and that's it. No idea who else was involved, no clue where things stood, no unnecessary contact. A full, disciplined, silent machine. Phase 1, reconnaissance. It all began with the recon team, the group we mentioned earlier. Their job? To study the target systems, search for security holes, and test them quietly. Once they were done, their findings were passed to the second team, the penetration team. These guys ran trial breaches, like digital war games, to make sure the vulnerabilities actually worked. Then came the real attack, when they'd launched the actual malware into the system. Surveillance and data collection. Meanwhile, a third group was quietly watching. The monitoring team. They didn't hack or code, but they oversaw everything from phase 1 and 2. And once the system was successfully breached, that's when the data collection team stepped in. Their mission? To gather as much sensitive data as possible. Access codes, bank account details, client names, transaction volumes, and every bit of internal activity. All that info was carefully compiled, then handed over to Team 5, the analysis team. This is where the intelligence game began. These guys would study the data like a spy agency, extracting exactly what was needed to design the perfect heist. Now it was time for the big players to move in. The execution team, Team 6. Their job? To build a full plan that started with system access and ended with turning digital account numbers into cold, hard cash. This was when the real theft began. And when the time came, all the teams got involved. Everyone played their part. But here's something interesting. Not everyone in the gang was a hacker. There was a whole other branch. The guys who worked on the ground. The ones who actually showed up at ATMs, grabbed the money, and disappeared. Who were they? They were operatives from a massive Russian crime syndicate, working in full coordination with Karbonak's boss. The deal between them was simple. We do the hacking, you collect the cash, we split the profits. A genius partnership, digital masterminds behind screens, and street-level pros roaming the cities of Europe and beyond. The hackers would program the ATMs to start ejecting money at a precise time. All the collector had to do was stand in front of the machine, wait, and scoop up the cash. And this was just one of the 3 methods they used for theft. Method 1, ATM draining. This was done with the help of the Russian gang's money carriers. Their mission? Be in the right place, at the right time, and grab the loot. Method 2, profit sharing. The revenue split was crystal clear. The guy who collects the money, 10% the hackers, 50% the on-ground gang, 40%? Now you might ask, 40% just for sending someone to stand at an ATM? Yup. And that cut was well worth it when you realize this network was stealing over $50 million every single month. Minimal effort, massive returns. And here's the funny part. If you ever refused to cooperate or tried to renegotiate your cut, they'd just ignore you, find someone else, and there's nothing you could do about it. Because honestly, you had no idea who they even were. The first heist this cyber gang pulled off? It happened in 2016, and it started with ATMs. Just picture this. 20 ATMs across the world, all at the exact same moment, suddenly started spitting out cash. Total chaos. And the crazy part? The security teams monitoring those systems, they thought it was just a software glitch. No one suspected a full-blown cyber attack by professional hackers. And the people who were collecting the money? The banks didn't even think they were criminals. They just said, they got lucky, right place, right time. But here's the wild twist. The hack didn't start in 2016. It started 2 years earlier. It all began when a regular employee's computer at a small bank in Ukraine got infected, without anyone noticing. But the actual theft? That didn't happen until 2 full years later, and when it finally did, the investigation, yeah, it came to the same old conclusion. Must have been a Windows error. The bank manager gathered his staff and started yelling, "This happened because none of you are updating Windows." He blamed employees who ignored admin emails and skipped updates. And the darkest irony? When he wanted to point out the worst offender, he chose the exact same guy whose computer had been the entry point, completely unaware that his machine had opened the gates of hell. But despite this clumsy beginning, the truth wouldn't stay buried for long. It all started to unravel when the security team reviewed the surveillance footage. They saw two men standing near the ATM, one watching the area, the other collecting cash, carrying a specially designed bag to store the money. And the strangest part? When a random pedestrian walked by unexpectedly, they dropped everything and calmly walked away, even though over $60,000 was still sitting there on the ground. That's when things started to click. Within just 2 years, the gang had hit over 100 banks in 30 different countries. Russia and China were hit the hardest, followed by the US, Europe, and several other nations. The total losses, over $1 billion. But because of how sensitive this case was, most of the details remain classified, even today. The names of the banks, the investigators, the affected countries, the hacking methods, and the identities of the gang members, all of it? Top secret. But what we do know is this. That very first bank that got hit in 2016, they later partnered with Kaspersky, the Russian cybersecurity giant, to help track the gang down. The result? They discovered the group had been operating in total silence for at least 2 years, and that the world was facing a new kind of cyber threat, one that moves quietly and strikes from the inside. Kaspersky deployed all their global teams. The hunt began. But the first direct encounter between the cybersecurity experts and the hackers was that moment I told you about at the start of the video. An analyst sent a message in Russian. "Hello." And minutes later, he got a reply from the hacker himself. "You'll never catch us." That's when the real battle began. What I didn't tell you earlier is that the infected employee's computer wasn't just sending data out, it was actually sending commands from Russia to ATMs in China. The machines in China started shooting out money like a casino jackpot. It was surreal. The IT director and a Kaspersky expert watched it happen in disbelief. There was nothing they could do. After hours of digging, the expert finally located the malicious file and deleted it, but it was too late. The ATMs were already empty. That's when the curtain started lifting on the entire operation. Kaspersky's experts told investigators it would take months to fully understand how the theft worked, and there was nothing they could do in real time to stop it. And here's the thing. The ATMs were just one method. The gang actually had 3 separate techniques, each one more clever than the last. Method 1, fake money transfers. Here's how it worked. They'd create a fake bank account and give it a phony balance. Then, they'd transfer that fake money into real accounts. But they had a brilliant trick to avoid suspicion. Deposit $10,000 into account A, wait exactly 9 hours, open account B. With the same fake deposit, withdraw cash from the fake account. While the other account makes it look like everything's legit. Why 9 hours? Because most banks run internal audits every 10 hours. Since the operation was complete before that, no red flags were raised. And using just this method, the gang stole over $300 million from banks all over the world. The second method, like we said, was complete control over ATMs. But the third one? It was hands down the smartest and most complex. Here's what they did. They opened bank accounts under the names of regular people, people who had no idea what was going on. These were the money mules, working for the Russian gang that partnered with the hackers. Each account had a tiny balance, usually around $3.33. Then the magic happened. A mysterious digital trick. To this day, nobody knows how it works. They somehow altered bank data and turned that $3.33 into $1 million in seconds. Just like that, every ordinary money mule became a temporary millionaire. Using this method alone, they stole millions of dollars. And like I said, the details of how they pulled it off are still a mystery. If that trick ever gets leaked to the public, it could cripple the global financial system. But here's the scariest part. Even with all of Kaspersky's resources, even with the world's top investigation agencies, no one's been able to identify a single key gang member. And the craziest twist? Most of what we know about the case today didn't come from cyber tools, but old-school methods. So what happened? The first crack in their plan appeared when large transfers started landing in random people's accounts. Some folks literally got a text saying, "Your bank account now has $1 million. Naturally, they rushed to the bank to withdraw it. And that's when everything started unraveling. Kaspersky's team began to see the full picture. They realized just how complex and well-coordinated this gang really was. So the investigation widened. Europol got involved, major European banks joined the hunt, and national law enforcement, including Interpol, stepped in. They started chasing the hackers step by step. Eventually, they traced a few of the gang's secret servers. But the gang, they leveled up. They started using more advanced, more professional, and more hidden methods. Even Kaspersky themselves admitted something shocking. We can't beat them with tech. We need to go old school. That's when Taiwanese police entered the scene. Picture this. Police patrols on foot, walking through the streets of the capital. Over 500 officers, checking every corner, every security camera, tracking movements in and out of the hotels where suspects had stayed. And finally, they spotted 20 members of the Russian network. Most were Russian nationals, with a few from Eastern Europe. But once they were exposed, 17 of them vanished from Taiwan within hours. Only 3 remained, and they had the stolen cash. Their faces went viral on the news, and they had to get rid of the money, fast. One of them hid 2 duffel bags filled with money in Donghu Park, then ran off to the Yonghae district to hide. But the police were faster. They caught him and recovered the bags. Or, so they thought. The twist? They only found 1 bag. The second? Turns out an elderly man had been strolling through the park, found the second bag, and took it home. He told police, "It was a blessing from God." But yeah, the police eventually tracked him down and recovered the cash. The second gang member used a similar trick. He stashed 2 bags of money in lockers at the main train station. A few days later, 2 of his partners flew in from Eastern Europe. They went straight from the airport to the station, picked up the bags, and headed to a small hotel. But they were being watched. Police raided the hotel at the perfect moment and recovered everything. Thanks to this operation, Taiwanese police recovered 90% of the stolen money on their soil. The 3 captured gang members were sentenced to over 4 years in prison. But here's the real shock. Those 3, they were just pawns. Nobodies in the grand scheme of the operation. But despite that, they had one piece of information. worth $1 billion. But the biggest surprise came when Taiwanese police found stunning photos inside the phone of one of the arrested suspects. Photos showing huge amounts of cash in multiple currencies, all sent to a single email address. That's when the real hunt began. Cybersecurity firms, working with the FBI and several international agencies, launched a full investigation and tracking operation. The shock? That email belonged to the mastermind, the gang's leader, the most dangerous hacker on the planet, Denis the Ukrainian. Denis wasn't just any hacker. He was a true programming genius, living the high life in Spain in a luxury villa with his wife and young child. He held 15,000 bitcoins in his digital wallet, worth around $162 million back then. And at today's price, more than $1.5 billion? The biggest surprise? All those bitcoins were obtained completely legally. No suspicious transactions in his digital record. But here's the shocking question. So why commit crimes at all? Why hack banks and risk everything when he was already a billionaire? The answer was shocking. The whole thing was just a personal challenge for him. He wanted to prove he could break into any digital fortress in the world. Denis was too smart to think bitcoins alone were enough. Cars, real estate, and everyday luxury require real money. So he started robbing banks, quietly cashing out without drawing attention. But those photos sent by email were a fatal mistake. Kaspersky wasn't sure who the leader was. They were monitoring a list of 30 suspects, and Denis was the most mysterious of all. Police chased every financial trail Denis left behind, each step leading to a new clue, until they were 100% sure he was the Joker, the leader of Carbonac. At the start of 2018, his home in Spain was raided, and the surprise? His personal computer was left unlocked, no password. Here came the knockout blow. Investigators accessed everything. All gang members used fake names, but Denis slipped up, and his real identity was exposed. 2 luxury BMWs were confiscated, jewelry worth $500,000, and of course, control over the Bitcoin wallet was seized. But despite all that, most of the billion-dollar loot remains missing to this day. After a year of secret investigations, Interpol arrested 3 more Ukrainians linked to Denis's network. But even now, no one knows the full truth about Denis's operation, which is believed to include over 30 hackers and programmers. Some sources hint that Denis and his crew were part of the Russian cyber army, and that everything they did was supported and covered by Russia, aimed at creating digital chaos in Western societies. But there's no official source or solid proof for this. What matters to you and me right now is never to open any link sent to you, even if it's from someone you trust. And never log into any site you're unsure about, because there are thousands like Denis, spread all over the world, just waiting for you to slip up. That was our story for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you love stories, I recommend checking out the legendary Hollywood-style prison break story of the greatest escape artist in history, and also the simple, silly theft that accidentally exposed 2 gangs at the same time. See you in the next story. Goodbye.